we're preparing. Start recording. Okay, here we go. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the GoldFish Report. I'm your host, Louisa. This is Friday, May 22nd, 2020. This is GoldFish Report number 497, folks. We're getting close to that 500 mark. Today, we have a very important interview that I thought was really important to pull together the two dragon representatives, dragon family representatives that we have join us on the GoldFish Report occasionally to kind of get to the bottom of what the heck is going on here globally regarding this battle for this brave new world for planet Earth here. So first, let me introduce Steve. Thanks for co-hosting with me. Thanks for being here with me, Steve.
Yeah. Hi to everybody from Central Europe. Good to be here.
And let's introduce first, everyone's familiar with Benjamin Fulford of the White Dragon Society. Benjamin, thanks for coming back to the GoldFish Report.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Good to see you. And of course, we have the ambassador from the Red Dragon family. So thanks for joining us, Ambassador.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay,
I'm going to start sharing a clip that was posted very early this morning, yesterday, or today, actually. The cover of the New York Post had a very desperate plea here. Let's take a listen.
David Marcus just wrote an amazing piece for the New York Post calling for an immediate end to the city's lockdown. We're happy to have him on tonight. David Marcus, thanks so much for coming on. So if you would just summarize for us why you wrote this piece and why you think these lockdowns, which we've been told day after day are so important, should end.
I wrote this piece this weekend when I saw images of New Yorkers at about 4:30 in the morning, hours before this Catholic church opened, that was offering food because they were hungry and they needed food. And when I saw those images is really when I went from being frustrated with Governor Cuomo and Mayor de Blasio to being furious because people are going hungry, small businesses are being destroyed, jobs are evaporating, our kids aren't being educated, people can't get cancer screenings. And the governor sits there on his TV show every day and acts as if what we're complaining about is that there's nothing to watch on Netflix. It's bizarre and it's infuriating.
Why do you think someone as ambitious as Andrew Cuomo, ambitious politicians tend to pay attention to what the public wants, are so completely tone deaf, oblivious to the suffering, the pointless suffering of the population? Why doesn't he get it?
I don't think people have much of a voice right now. I mean, first of all, they're stuck at home. But I think Andrew Cuomo is also in a situation where it's become abundantly clear that he bungled this, particularly in regard to the nursing homes, in deadly ways. And I'm sure that he is very, very nervous about making any more mistakes. But that's not good enough. We need leadership because the city of New York is dying. And it has to open now or we're not going to be able to save it.
Okay. That's where I wanted to end. We're not going to be able to save it. I think there's a lot of places who are experiencing something very similar to this, as you called it, Benjamin, and I've referred to it very similarly as a scamdemic. Benjamin, let me start with you. You saw those comments. There's places that are going to be perhaps irreparably harmed by this. What do you think needs to happen right now?
Well,
globally,
you need to look at the fall of the Soviet Union because that's what's happening. But this time it's the United States Union, the Nazi regime that took over after 9/11 that has gone bankrupt. And they're using this pandemic as an excuse to cover up the fact that they're bankrupt. And second, to try to stay in power by using a pandemic as a excuse for draconian fascist people control measures.
Right, and we can see that they're advancing their agenda. Ambassador, how far is this going to go before do the people need to be the ones to are the checks and balances, at least in the United States and Europe? I'm not sure how much of a voice people really have, but I know people have been protesting. And of course, this was one way to shut that down, the Hong Kong protests, and of course, the France protests, everywhere else. What do you think is happening, at least over in Europe, and what do you think needs to be done?
No, the thing is this way. I mean, the only country that hasn't gone completely, draconian is actually the country where I'm in right now, in Sweden. We don't have any, restrictions at all. But they are trying to force us, and the other countries in Europe is trying to force us into it. You understand?
Right.
And they're talking about that we're having so many deaths, but I have not seen any evidence for it. You understand? And so it's and I agree with Benjamin. This is a perfect way for the feds and for the others to cover up their thefts and hijackings and bankruptcy that is coming. Now they have something to blame on. So all these politicians that created this situation and all the bankers who for the money, they are now blaming it all on the coronavirus.
Right.
The thing to understand too is that the only place that's really going through actual hardship is the United States, because they're the only place that has been running a humongous trade and budget deficit for 40 years. Everybody else, they're going through the motions, but we're not seeing the same level of hardship. And the other thing is that people knew this was coming, so they are preparing food. Okay, you're not actually having people starving, which is something you got to remember. So maybe you can't buy the latest iPhone, but you're going to get a full stomach,
Well, if you don't have money, you can't buy anything. Steve, why don't you jump in? And I'm sure you've got some questions.
Well, I just make a comment that these obviously these numbers are fixed, and it's here where I am in Central Europe. There's certainly opportunistic political action. They're using whether it was planned or not. They're using it to crack down and to increase their power and their popularity with the fear. But look, I'd just like to ask both of our guests where they think, if things don't change rapidly, where are we going to? I mean, we're going to have problems in the fall, in autumn. So what's the solution? Is there going to be help coming from the dragon families? Is there going to be this RV that's being talked about? If not, then what's going to happen? Maybe Benjamin will have an idea. So maybe I throw it first to the ambassador. Maybe I ask you, Ambassador, is the RV going to happen? What do you know?
No, the thing is this way. As this thing is going on, we have a remittance program going on at the same time.
Yes.
Okay. That's going well, and I wouldn't be surprised if this COVID-19 is also related to it. You understand?
Yes.
And so things are moving very positively forward. Only problem is that what I see is that for us it has limit our movements. And they have an excuse to kill us, basically, and blame it on COVID-19. And so the thing is this way: we have to be extra careful in our work these days, and it's hard for us to travel.
Steve, are you in a bar? I'm sorry. Are you in a bar? I hear somebody get knocked out behind you.
Can I interject here a little bit about COVID-19?
Yes.
All right, look, coronavirus is what's known as a cold virus. And every year there's a new type of cold virus, right? And the statistics that we're seeing are what would happen any year with a cold virus. They're just blowing it out. Like I say, I mean, anybody actually goes to a hospital, sees for themselves, they can confirm it's not a pandemic. You need to get that through your head. This is not a pandemic. There's nobody dying of any disease, all right? And unless you do that basic fact checking, you're wasting your brain energy thinking about
This is correct. It's correct. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, the numbers are fudged.
I mean, Project Veritas did an expose showing that the hospitals, there was no one in the hospitals. On Twitter, I've been reposting and reporting on how there's medical personnel that are actually, doing dances. They're recording like dances, and they're being ridiculous about it because they're trying to prove a point. They're not that there's no emergency in the hospitals. Yeah.
Well, maybe you haven't found it yet, that if you look at the opening ceremony for the 2012 London Olympics, they had a whole coronavirus dance show with nurses and a coronavirus and stuff. They've been planning this for a long time. The EU put out a comic book.
I saw that. It's amazing.
Yeah, with the exact same script that they're using now.
Amazing. Yeah. It was 2012. That was 2012. Yeah.
But okay, here's the thing. I'm going to tell you what we're trying to do, and then there are some very high-level negotiations going on, including, Pentagon types, European royal types, from the 13 bloodlines, Asian secret societies, and we are trying to come up with a massive, campaign to end poverty and stop environmental destruction, and a jubilee to write off all the debts, and release most of the people who shouldn't be in jail from jail, especially in the U.S. and have a huge jumpstart. So there is a group that's using this pandemic as a way of changing the world without actually having a World War III to do it.
Right. Okay,
And there's a group that is trying to use it to kill us. Okay, there's two groups. One is using it as a ceremony to start a better world. Another group is trying to stay in power and still trying to kill us, and they're fighting.
Right. Well, you can see though from Governor Cuomo that he's perhaps not really that good of a governor, because he's destroying the state. It looks like the puppet strings are being cut. Would you agree?
Yeah, I've heard from my sources that there have been a mass arrests in New York, and I'd like people to confirm if the likes of Lady Gaga and Steven Spielberg, et cetera, vanished or not. But that's what I've been heard. They've rounded up all sorts of bankers and other oligarchs, and they've been taken away. And we need people in New York to try to confirm if these people are there or not anymore. But I've heard that a lot of them have been taken away in that hospital ship from LA and from New York, and that the roundups are continuing. And that's one of the things the White Hats have been doing during this shutdown is rounding up child torturing Satanist types.
Right. Ambassador, can you confirm, is this what's happening? The puppet strings are now being cut, and these puppets are on their own, and they're really showing how unfit they are for governing and leadership roles?
Yes, and also, like we're saying, we call it the cleanup process. And the cleanup process is ongoing. And, and it will be continuing, and people will leave us, and some people will go to jail. You understand? So that's the system, and so this is a part of a remittance program that we started a few years back. So and it will be harder. We had an attempt. I don't know if anyone paid attention to it in Asia. We had an attempt to start a third world war this week with a Chinese jet and a drone being shot down in the South Pacific China Sea, and. It was very quiet about it, and China didn't make any official statement, as I know, and also United States haven't made any official statement, but it was the American Navy shooting it down.
That's interesting. I didn't hear that, but I tell you what I have heard is that the top Jesuit Adolfo Nicolas has died. He was 84. They say he's sick. Who knows? But immediately after that, the lead prosecutor in Japan was resigned, who was working for Prime Minister Abe. And then immediately after that, 600 lawyers filed criminal charges against Prime Minister Abe. So maybe he was involved in this. So stuff is happening. This is really breaking through here, folks. And the other thing they did when Trump invited Kim Jong-un to meet him at the border of North Korea there, they hit him with some kind of electromagnetic weapon. And that's not going to go unrevenged. That was not, they shouldn't have done that. That's all I can say. That was a really stupid thing to do for Trump and those people.
Steve.
Yeah. Hello.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'd like to swing a question to the ambassador about the remittance. I mean, you've mentioned this before in other interviews, but maybe people need reminding. When you say that they should remit, what exactly do you mean? Is it they owe money, as far as I remember, to
Yes, they
the
owe
families?
money.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
all of them own money to the family, and it's time to pay back.
So
Well-
who owns money? Who owns the money? Can you say?
You know, for example, every single nation on the planet owes money, and institutions like the Vatican and other institutions owes money to the family. They've been borrowing money since the Crusades, and you know, it's time to pay back.
I'm sorry, Steve. I have to keep muting your microphone. There's a lot of background noise. I just jump in when you're ready to. Just jump in when you're ready to.
Yeah, okay. The other question is about the bonds. There's talk about historic bonds from 1913. What can you tell us about the bonds that maybe Trump's talking about?
Are these heritage bonds, Steve? That
Yeah,
you're
heritage bonds. Yeah.
It was in the news, was it not? Or can you tell us about that?
Yeah, the news with Donald Trump. I think this is just like, you know, he can keep on dreaming.
Keep on dreaming. Okay.
You know, they're digging up all these ancient bonds that in theory are worth, you know, an infinite amount of money, but they can be counter bonded if you want. I mean, the Americans under Morgenthau, they issued so many trillions of dollars worth of these bonds all over Asia. I've seen them with my own eyes. You know, if you want to play that game, you're going to lose, you know, because the fact of the matter is that at the end of the day, and this is what's happening, is that the real world is more powerful than the financial world. Okay. Food will feed you. A piece of paper with a bunch of zeros on it will not.
Right.
And it's the control of the actual real goods and services, especially the goods, the food, the metal, all that stuff. That's where the real power lies. And these people in Wall Street with their supercomputers and their quadrillions of dollars in computers, they don't have anything that's real, or they have very little. And that's what's happened. The plug has been pulled on their money games, and that's why everything's falling apart, and that's why they're freaking out.
Okay,
so these bonds, these heritage bonds are being used as a leverage tactic, but you're saying that it's not going to work.
I mean, all this, but you know, to be really honest with you, you can take all these boxes of bonds, okay? All these boxes with Treaty Versailles boxes, all these different boxes. They are all been electronicized on the gray screen, on the dead screen, okay?
Okay.
Basically, they're worthless. The only value they have is a historical value, and maybe if it's some gold made on it, then you can take away that gold and maybe it's worth something. The thing is this, the real keeper, you know, who kept this thing in the system and have behaved good and not prostituted it and things and have projects and have things to do it, can be compensated by the family through a remittance program, okay? But
only a keeper.
It's not. It's like 1% of the total value. So the thing is this way, that what he was digging up, you know, Donald Trump, I think it's more a charade than anything else, because you know, they can keep on doing, just like Benjamin said. Just imagine if you would start demanding all the Treaty of Versailles boxes that United States owes, that at that time was worth 3 trillion, and today would probably be worth around 33 trillion with the interest that has. And then you have 5 or 6 of these boxes. What, you know, that is what is owed to the family. So let's pay that back.
So are you saying that this coronavirus is basically political theater to avoid bankruptcy?
Yeah, I think that that, and also to eliminate people.
Okay, and Benjamin, is there
And
more to it?
also to try to trigger the creation of a world republic. That's what the P3 Freemasons are saying. Now, I have a question for the ambassador. Have you heard of a new M1 in charge of the quantum financial system? And would you like to meet an individual who claims to be this with some credibility?
Yes, I could meet this person and verify, yeah. But I know the selected finance minister of the family. I know him, you know, personally. He's actually with me as we're speaking. And but the former M1 he's in Asia right now. Is this the one you're talking about?
No, okay. There's someone that the bloodlines in Europe have selected, and they have the ability to move a large part of the West, and they're trying to reach a deal with Asia. This is what, and they've contacted me, and they've
Hmm.
also reached out to the NSA, and I've, having spent a lot of time communicating with this individual, I can assure you that he represents very powerful interests. Certainly, they control MI6, the CIA, and the Pentagon.
Okay, good. Oh, we could set up a call, me and you, and a finance representative of the Dragon family together, and then you could meet him also, Benjamin.
Okay, he's for security reasons. That we've exchanged handwritten stuff to confirm that he's not an AI, but he's hidden away, under extreme security for
Right.
very good reasons.
Mm.
But we can open a line of communications. I think we can start if you can contact me on my iPhone. They seem to think that's better than a computer.
No problem. We will exchange you the details when we finish.
Okay.
I'll send my my
Okay.
information to Louisa, and she can pass it on to you.
Okay.
Okay.
Perfect.
So we have really right now we're still in this battle, as you reported this week, Benjamin, and the main players are obviously the deep state, which go by many different names depending on what part of the world that you're in, right?
And the thing you need to understand, it's not a monolith. Okay, there's seriously opposed factions. Like another way of defining the deep state is to think of it as history. Uh, Everything that's happened today is an extension of what happened in the past, and that has a lot of momentum behind it. So institutions like the Vatican that have been around for a couple thousand years have an institutional momentum. It's difficult to change these things, and that's what we're trying to do. So it's a long and tough process.
But the reality is people are seeing through the fraud and the scam now, whereas before, the Wizard of Oz, that curtain was pulled back and nobody knew who was really controlling everything. Now people are starting to see this illusion, this matrix, and people are starting to fight back. There are protests going on within the country, and I think, let's just say the United States really was supposed to be the light of the world, and it's turning out to be such a failure because we the people, have failed ourselves. Would you agree, Benjamin?
Well, what's happening is that you were hijacked. Your country was hijacked by a very sophisticated group of criminals who use an ancient system of Babylonian debt slavery, and they're being overthrown, and you're being liberated. So, just like when there's going to be a little bit of a tough time in the interim, but it's going to be a good thing in the long, even the medium run for you guys.
Well, what are the landmarks? What are the signs that we're actually accomplishing, that we're actually winning, that we're actually making progress? I mean, I know you cited some things in your report about these earthquakes and these underground bases and things, which is still hard to completely verify.
Well, okay. What you can verify is that did you get $1,200 check straight from the Federal Reserve Board? A lot of people I know did. That means that instead of taking the central bank money and giving it to a few trillionaire cronies, they're
Right.
giving it straight to the people. That's something that you can see and experience directly. It's not something you read about or hear about on the internet.
Right, but at the same time, there's no jobs to go back to, and $1,000 in the United States is nothing. I'm
Yeah, I
sorry.
Doesn't go
I'm not
understand.
far.
saying I'm not saying that the effort was nothing, but that's not going to pay rent. It's not going to buy, it's going to buy food for
All
what?
right.
How
Well,
many days?
that's
I'm
another
just
thing.
saying that for the level of crisis that we're at this point, that's a drop in the bucket compared to what people need in
All
the
right, look,
United States to sustain
Luisa,
themselves.
have you seen any hungry people? I've seen hungry people, starving people in various places, parts of the world. Have you seen any hungry people in the United States?
I used to work at a food pantry. There's a lot of
Yeah.
hungry people that walk.
But they get fed. They don't starve to death, and they can probably afford a beer too. Even, what I'm trying to say is that they're going to make sure that there's no real suffering, i.e., starvation and malnutrition, as the system gets shut down and rebooted.
Okay,
But,
Ambassador, you
but
want
it's
to talk?
going to take
I see.
until at least next autumn before this is all over. This is what I'm hearing from multiple sources. You still got a year and a bit of heavy turbulence ahead of you. That's what I've been told. And we're trying to make it happen sooner rather than later, that there's going to be a complete reboot. But already in the United States, they're trying to fix the infrastructure. Um, they're giving the money directly to the people. And statistically, the fact that now 40% of people aren't paying their rents and mortgages means that the Babylonian debt slavery system that you call your banking system is mathematically bankrupt. They can't, it has to be redone.
Okay, Steve, did you want to comment or jump in?
Yeah, okay. Look, that's all very good information, and yes, it's been very interesting today. But look, okay, Benjamin, you're saying that till autumn 2001, fall 2001, that's when the dust is going to settle. That's what the projection is. So,
That's what
can
I'm
you?
2020, not 2001, Steve.
2021,
Yeah.
sorry, 21.
Okay.
So, what, when, how will that look? How will the new system look for the man on the street? Will it be a gold-backed currency? What are we looking at here?
Well, the people I'm talking about are saying that they're gonna the control over the financial system is going to be given back to the people and away from these secret groups, in at least in the West.
Yep.
And they're going to try to create a system like that I've been recommending. I've heard that there's a lot of agreement with this, where you have a future planning agency where you talk the whole country, they have a big discussion saying, okay, where do you want to be 5 years from now as a country? What do people want? How can we make it happen? How can we make things better for everybody? So we figure out what people want, and then we figure out how to get it to them in harmony with nature. So they're trying to get a much better system in place from one run by a bunch of Satan worshiping, interbred, people hating, criminals.
Right. Anti-life force.
You've talked
I
about this
always,
for a long time. Sorry, Louisa. Could I just jump in? Look, okay, so I mean, my question was, what are we going to have? A one world currency? Are we going to have, how's it going to look like?
I think that there's going to be individual nation states will be more or less as they are now, but there's going to be a replacement of the IMF and the UN with something much better and for the planet. That's what I've
Okay.
heard. Maybe the ambassador can.
yeah,
please.
maybe Ambassador, you can tell us about the plans for the Fed to either be, eliminated or repurposed.
They would be repurposed and eliminated. Okay. And it would be a US Treasury, and it will be a new world currency that will be stronger than the US dollar and take over. We're going to see a shift from the west to the east and it's something that we have to live with. You understand?
So are you saying the new world currency, which is what, the yuan?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's something we have to live with. That the East will be becoming United States for the future. That's why the cabal so desperately, tries to start this war. Now, what we see here is that, by my opinion, okay, if the United Nations office, I told you before, it's already built a new one, okay, and we will see a new infrastructure of the whole world, how it is. The pyramid that is today will be falling, and it's time for everyone to accept that it has already started falling. And we need to start repurposing, just like Benjamin said about this advisory groups that plans the future for the people. Now it's no real reason why any people in the world should be suffering more than others. We talk about $2,000, for example, for a person in Romania or a person in Serbia. This is a lot of money. For the people in America, it's basically nothing. For a person in Norway, is also not much. You understand? But like we stated, the main important thing here is that the people are surviving and it's not dying, of starvation and of other things. But my biggest fear that I see is that we need to take a stop on is that this coronavirus has been a way to implementing the surveillance state the international surveillance state, where we're not going to be able to move freely anymore without being surveillanced all the time. And my fear is also that they're going to implement rules where you have to be taking a vaccine, for example, to be able to work or to be able to fly or to be able to do different type of things.
Yeah,
Now,
these are the people. Yeah, no, these are the people we have to stop. They're still, that battle's not yet over, but they are losing.
yeah.
Yeah, why is it so hard to remove Bill Gates from the equation, who, you know, is the master eugenicist, apparently?
Well, I can tell you that he paid a $200 million bribe in Asia, and then he paid another big bribe in Italy. And I'm hearing this directly from the people who got the bribes, you know, to chase away certain groups that were going to hunt him down. But I don't know. Is he appearing in public anywhere? The last image I saw him, he's like aged 20 years in the past few months. I don't know. Is he still around?
Bad
If he
clone.
is, he's hiding in a deep hole somewhere.
You know, when is that going to come out, Benjamin? When is it finally going to be exposed, do you think, about
Well,
Bill?
when the U.S. military gets the cojones to move in on the networks and Google and force them to report the truth.
Do you think they have any?
Yeah, the ones who do will take action, and the rest will sit in their hands. But they're certainly not going to fight on behalf of these criminals. They might just do nothing, but some will do something, and that'll be enough.
Yeah, could I
Steve.
jump in here?
Go ahead, Steve.
Ambassador, I agree completely what you said about the surveillance state. That's what's being installed. You look at China, the Communist Party has basically installed that dream surveillance state from their perspective. So after the dust settles, will the Communist Party exist after the dust settles?
You know, it is something that you know, I'm not allowed to answer. Okay, but let's say that we will see some shift and changes.
Okay.
But
I want to tell you something though about surveillance state. I live in Japan, okay, and I'm telling you, it's existed here forever. You know, if someone every day puts the wrong stuff in their garbage bag, they're not separating it properly, it'll be spotted and some action will be taken.
That's from neighbors, though, isn't it? That's neighbors in Japan.
But as a network, the whole society is already networked by a sort of a human biological network, and it already exists. It always has. It's psychic, and the centralized system using mobile phones is nothing compared to the existing human grapevine.
It's true, but this contact tracing is really good.
Something
really
else,
out of
exactly.
control, where you're absolutely, you know, you're being. It's not just a matter of like the TSA agents doing your pat down and almost molesting you basically in the airport. For, you know, post 9/11, of course, they made advances against our freedoms and our Constitution in the United States because of that. And now they're using this fake pandemic, which everybody's exposing.
You have a phone?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. So that means they can go back and listen to every conversation you've had and know everybody you've met.
Text,
whenever you
geoposition,
have your phone with you. Yeah, they've got it's a GPS listening device with a camera on it, and you're carrying it around with them, and they can monitor you. If you want to get off the grid, leave your credit cards and your phone away, and go into the forest. Otherwise, they're following you. All right, it's already been there. It's been around for a while.
Yeah. Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, well, look, I think that I agree with you, Benjamin. That's been in Japan. I spent some time in Japan, not as much. You've been there for decades, but I got that. But what I've understood from Asia is they have a different philosophy. They believe they think in the collective terms that they think of the good of all. But in the West, we have a very different mentality, as you know. You're Canadian, so I don't think that's necessarily applicable to us in the West. And also, it just doesn't go. It goes against our grain here. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Well, I think that we fought for our freedom before, and we'll fight for it again. But
I hope so.
they're not the people. At the end of the day, it's going to be up to the men with the guns. It's going to be the military and the police.
It always is.
Who are the last line of defense, and they know they're of the people. It's their families. It's their children. It's their, you know, it's That's who they defend.
Yeah,
They
you're probably
don't,
right. Yep.
Well,
and
what's happening in the US is you do see some police who are stepping up and making videos and saying they are not going to enforce unconstitutional orders, which
Good
is
for them.
great. Yeah, which is great. This is the movement. What does the US have to do, Benjamin?
Show the
What
way.
does
Show the way.
well,
Benjamin?
the world is helping. Like I say, we're bankrupting the criminal class, and that took over your country, and we're rounding them up. And then, but as far as rebuilding the United States, that's gonna, the rest of the world standing by to help, but we can't do it until we finish removing these people. We don't want to give them money again. We don't want them to get back into power. That means there's gonna be a little bit more turbulence until they're removed. And
Okay.
then you have genuine democracy and meritocracy again, and people are freed from debt slavery. And that process is not over. I'm sorry, but there's no
Right.
way around it.
Right. Ambassador, what do you think the first thing is Americans need to do to get things back on track?
I think that Americans, need to get out of a goldfish war. You understand? It was. I was reading a comment today, and it's not that I'm downplaying the Holocaust or anything with that, but it was one person posting that the millennials doesn't know about the Holocaust and so on, and it's like a horrible thing that they don't know about the Holocaust. But listen, they don't even know which state is the neighbor state. They are such a goldfish. The educational system is so bad that they have no clue about the world. So
Yeah.
you're gonna complain about the Holocaust? Complain about general education in America. Now the thing is this way: is that you have to wake up. The people have to wake up and have to unite. But especially the people. This is what I have been stating before: from the up down, the people who are responsible have to take their responsibility to defend the nation against foreign and domestic enemies, and they have duties to do so, and that is what they have to do. And everyone has to take responsibility collectively, because this is the thing that I get so upset with in the past, was that everyone wants to blame the cabal, but what do we do about it? We need to do something about these people. You understand what I mean? And not just think that the Dragon family will do everything for us. No, we all have to do it unitedly, working together to disempower these people. You
And
understand?
Go
and
ahead,
people
Benjamin.
ask me often, what can I do? What can the individual do? And the answer I give is whatever's closest to you is most important. Make sure that the stuff that you deal with directly in your real life is okay first. And if you do that, if everybody did that, that would be enough. So if you see some uh, policeman behaving in a way that's not what he was hired for, you report it, you do something about it. You don't fight them, but you try to uh, make sure that the institutions that you deal with directly are functional. And only resort to fighting if they actually come to your door and tell you to leave your house to go somewhere else. Then that's what the sign where passive resistance is not going to be enough. Until that time, just do what you can within the system that you deal with directly. Don't worry about stuff on the internet or whatever. Things that you actually experience personally. Make sure that's okay.
Right. Well, there's also been a video clip, not only of the World Health Organization, but of the Queen also saying that, basically they're going to, come into your home and take your children out if you have been tested positive and this, for
Yeah,
COVID-19,
it's
and they're
horrifying.
going to, this is part of the contact. It's not just the phone. They're planning and they're publicly stating this. They're going to come in and take your children and put them in a humane, safe place. Now,
And that
The,
and
they're going
that
w,
to,
the WHO said the same thing.
so
Yeah.
they're going to eat them, and that they're going to torture them, and they're going to traffic them, and that this is what these psychopaths do. So this is what we're up
well,
against, and they
okay.
have all the control on the planet.
If someone, I mean, if someone came to my house to try to do that, that's the point at which I'd fight to the death.
Yeah, it's true, Benjamin, and people have to be willing to see that that's the point we're at.
That's the danger.
You're
That's the
absolutely
danger.
right.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's
That's
the point
correct.
we're at.
Well,
See what Benjamin's talking about. Go ahead, Ambassador.
I have a friend, very high up, a person a society that is actually, calling to me and thinking about relocating himself and his family from United States and Canada. He lives in Canada now, but he's American, just because of these rules. He wants to escape it and go to the wilderness, basically. And
So it will come, you think?
yeah, I believe they will implement it. They are sick enough to do it. So if people in power and Trump and people underneath him doesn't do anything about it, they will implement it.
Right, and that's
Okay.
why they wanted. That's why them trying the Democrats.
And also you have to realize one thing is that a lot of police officers, and now probably police officers are going to be angry about me about it, but either way, I have to tell it that it is, because I worked in services for years. Is that many of them are psychopaths themselves? That's why they apply to become police officers. Many of them are not, especially the normal police. It's a little bit better with security services because they normally have to have a separate and more high education. But the normal police officers is not bigger difference between them and a security guard. And security guards normally are even more sick in the head. So I mean, we have to deal with people that has issues with themselves, and they are the ones that's supposed to protect and save us when they cannot even handle their own psychosis. They need a chill pill. These people, and they have to. And this is what I said before: is that what I'm gonna tell my children? What did I do to stop this nonsense? And that is what the police and other people should be thinking about. Would they accept, for example, their own behavior being implemented against their own family? I don't think so. So that you have to do like Jesus says, behave against others the way you want people to behave against you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So go ahead, Benjamin.
yeah, I'm running out of time here, but I can tell you, I do talk to very senior military and intelligence types, and at the high level, I guarantee you the White Hats are in control, and they're not going to let this stuff happen. I promise you. We're going to fight them. We're going to hunt them down, and if necessary, we're going to kill them. But we're not going to let them start mass killing of the population. It's not going to happen.
Let's hope so. Well, before you go, Benjamin, one question, if I may. I had dinner last night with a Brazilian friend, and he was there in the end of the 80s, and he experienced the Zimbabwe type hyperinflation that happened at the time. Do you think it's possible, before this crash comes, this reset comes, that we're going to experience hockey stick style hyperinflation?
I was in Argentina when they had the hyperinflation there, and I had a friend who he paid 10,000 pesos for like a farm and like 34 acres. And a few years later, 10,000 pesos was the price of a pack of cigarettes. Okay, but the same farm, the same 34 acres was still there.
Yeah.
So,
no, but do you think we're going to experience that before the crash comes or whatever?
Apparently, it's already happening. You got to check the supermarket yourself and see. But
well, it's not hockey stick style. It's not straight up.
Yeah,
it's not buy something in the morning before it gets 3 times expensive in the afternoon. That's not.
Yeah, but the point is that even in those times, it was confusing and things. But in Argentina, they made up their own currency. They called it palos, right? And they just kept their daily trading going, even as the system kind of imploded. So again, it's the real world stuff. It's the actual food on the table, all that kind of thing that you got to worry about. And I'm pretty sure that the military planners in the U.S. Did figure out the logistics to make sure everybody gets food and gas and the essentials, even as the financial system implodes. I think you're going to be okay. But like I say, there's going to be turbulence and confusion before it's all over. But there's not going to be mass death and there's not going to be mass starvation.
Right.
Sure.
Well, Benjamin, how bad will it get? What's your prediction before it turns around? How will we know we're over that? How will we know we've passed that mark and that we're on the uptick?
I think that you're going to have to look at your local neighborhood and your local grocery store and start to there to see if you can get more stuff, if the kids are playing nicely on the streets, if people seem happy or not. You got to start at that level, but it's not going to be a sudden thing. You're going to look back and say, oh, that's when it happened. In the case of Russia, when they finally got rid of all these people after the Soviet Union collapsed, they doubled their living standards in a single year. But before that, there were pensioners selling their meager lives property to try to get the next egg. It's not going to be that bad in the U.S., but it depends on how competent your regime is. And I think that the people in charge of Treasury now under Mnuchin are on the case, and I think the military are on the case, and I don't think you're going to have anything nearly as hard a time as the Russians did when the Soviet Union collapsed.
Right, that was my next question. It seems like we're pretty much, we're on that precipice right now. We're very close to.
It's
You
your
betcha.
government that's going bankrupt, not you. All right, that's the bottom line. With that, I'm gonna
Yeah, but Benjamin, there's no jobs. You know how many places my favorite bagel shop closed down? All these little mom and pop shops, all the things that keep
That's
the
it.
local economies running are shutting down. I don't know if you realize how serious it is here because businesses are shut down. You can't go anywhere and buy clothes unless you want to go to Walmart. Nothing's open. There's very little selection of food in the supermarkets.
I've seen people in
I'm
the
not saying
Philippines.
it's the worst that it can be, but I'm
Okay,
saying that this isn't a
all
good sign.
right. I've seen people in the Philippines so poor they can't even afford a single set of clothing. They live naked. Okay, you're nowhere near that level. I think it's going to be, you may be going through a bit of cold turkey and you can't get the latest iPhone, but it's not going to be anything really bad. And as far as the shutting down of the shops, you need street level resistance. You just got to say, to hell with that, we're reopening. But I've been told that by the P3 people that they're going to end this whole thing in June. So let's see if that happens.
All right, let's see.
Yeah, because
That'd be
people
good.
can't pay for their necessities if they don't have a job. So
All
if
right.
they don't have a job, they can't
Yeah.
pay for their
And
necessities.
if the fiat they have in their pocket, their bank account becomes worthless, they can't pay for anything.
Yeah,
That's
and
right.
they lose their jobs, they lose health insurance, and the whole system implodes, and it is imploding. And we really need to stop the hemorrhaging. So I'm glad you said that, Benjamin.
Well, it's not. It's a controlled demolition, and it's going
Right.
to be rebooted. Okay,
All right,
but
as long as it's
that's what's
controlled.
happening.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
controlled demolition. All right.
All
Thanks
right.
for having me on,
Thanks
guys.
for joining us.
Ambassador, I'm going to
Thanks.
send my contact information to Louisa so we can get this ball rolling. All right.
Okay, perfect.
Thanks, Benjamin.
All right.
Okay,
Bye.
so long, Benjamin.
you.
Thanks for
And
joining.
Benjamin, I
Thanks
will
for
try
joining
to
us.
get in contact with you tomorrow already. Okay.
All right. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so Ambassador, do you have a few more minutes? You can
Yes.
join us. Okay.
Can I swing that same question to you, Ambassador, about what do you think? Will there be hyperinflation? Will the currencies devalue before this happens?
Yeah, of course, they're already devaluing. I mean,
No,
just look
but I
at
mean
how we-
hyperinflation.
Yeah, I believe so too, but, you should thank the family for having these programs that they're assisting money not to make this transaction too hard. You understand, on the people.
Yeah.
It's like Benjamin said just about Russia. I mean, Russia had a horrible transition, but then it went up like hell. And I think that all these shops that Louisa is talking about, when they stop these draconian measures, they will be coming alive again after a while, because people are gonna want to go back to eating their favorite bagels. You understand?
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, but would you agree, Ambassador, with Benjamin saying that this is a controlled demolition?
Yes, it is.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's good.
Yeah. Well, so how
Well,
much?
it's better than hyperinflation.
Yeah. Well, how much more will be demolished then before we get?
That's the
before-
question. That's the question. That depends how hard the people will continue to fight against the remittance, and it demands also the demand, and also it depends how hard the people will. And now, when I'm talking about the people, I'm talking about the people in power.
Right.
And it depends how hard the people is going to fight with trying to remove Trump for a second term also.
Yeah, so that's the real issue. I wish Benjamin was still here, but that is the real issue because these people, and we've talked about this before with Benjamin on the GoldFish Report, how they don't want to give up that gravy train that they're on, and but it looks like they're going to have to. And the problem is humanity's in the crosshairs of this ancient battle, isn't it true?
Yeah, we are.
Okay, so we're basically, we are just
But we
we're
should
pawns in this
thank,
fight.
yeah, we should just thank God that we are not in a third world war, which could be in another controlled demolition. Yes, so
Yeah.
we should be thanking God that we're not that. But we have to.
I agree. I agree.
We have to just make sure that we are arresting the people behind the coronavirus situation here. And I also we need to have a life where we are not being watched 24 hours a day. I think
agree
it's
too.
60.
Exactly. So, oh
And
my,
we're gonna have people.
what was
We're gonna have
that?
people. We're gonna have people that says that yeah, but if you don't do anything bad, you don't have anything to worry about.
That's not true.
But the problem is that I don't trust the people controlling the surveillance state, and I have seen how they are editing and cutting and misrepresenting audio recordings
Right.
from phones in the past in court just to judge people. I have a personal experience of it, so I don't trust them. Very simple.
Fair enough.
That's the problem, and you can see that there's really, no oversight and accountability. We can see what's been happening within the United States with the fake Russian collusion, the fake hoax. See how fake the media is. See how fake even, these some of these intelligence agencies are, and the people who are running them. So it's time. I know it's time for all of this to be revealed. It's time that everybody sees, the corruption for what it is. You'd think that the people, the puppets who are in charge of this would be trying to make, as Steve has said in the past, some kind of truth and reconciliation to save, to redeem themselves as much as possible because they can't hold on to this power. It's not theirs anymore.
No, they're losing grip. They're losing grip of it. Yeah.
Yeah, Ambassador?
Yeah, I think the truth and reconciliation courts are gonna come too in the future.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Nuremberg.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's then okay. Then it's not as bad as I would have thought. I think it's a controlled demolition of the system, the old system, and that's positive in a way.
Yeah.
In a way, yeah. I mean, if
So-
there's
But
a huge uncontrolled
the
crash,
battle is not over yet. It's
of course not.
we're gonna have people resisting. We're gonna have people trying their best to keep focus on other things and create distractions and
like false flags.
yeah.
So they're going to try to use,
Scamdemic.
Yeah, well, exactly. It's another false flag. There's no question COVID-19 is another false flag. But this has never happened before on such a global scale. That's why this is really a battle for a brave new world because the people it has to be we the people, no matter what country you're in, we all have to stand up. There are only 1%. Actually, they're probably more than 1% because, the government is huge now. And so they do represent a lot of people. But at the end of the day, people working for them have their own families. And as Benjamin always talks about, it's about the real world, real, tangible physical world that that matters at the end of the day. And how, what kind of quality of life you're living. It's hard to have a quality of life when when we are living an illusion. We're living an illusion, especially with the judiciary, as corrupt as it is. And not to say that there aren't good people, good judges, good people who have uh, want to do their jobs under according to the oaths that they took, and act in honorable ways. But many are not acting in honorable ways. There's the oversight and accountability, at least if we get away from the whole issue of the puppet masters or the puppets and the puppet masters, even for we the people, there is no accountability for the corruption and for the lack of oversight and the abuse of power. If they can do this to General Flynn and they could do this to the president, of course they're doing it to us. Of course they have been. And the media is not going to report it because they're fake. They're owned by the media. The globalists own the media. But Ambassador, and I wanted to ask Benjamin about this. I mean, China right now is the 800-pound gorilla. I mean, when you say you want to hold those accountable for this virus, you know, according to the president, he's putting direct blame on Wuhan. That China knew about this, they had the DNA sequence, they had this all figured out, and withheld this information from the world and allowed it to spread. So, you know, I know that you're. Go ahead. Actually, why don't you go ahead and comment on that?
No, I think that we have to realize the people behind the Wuhan laboratories. Who was these people? They're all coming from America. So the thing is this way, and one from Europe. So the thing is this way, that to blame China for it is not really correct. This was an attack against China and United States and the world.
Okay.
Planned to create this massive alien state and kill a lot of people. That was the plan, and hopefully creating a war between America and China. And I hope that Trump is smart enough to see through that.
Right. I'm just interacting with their live chat viewers, and I'm looking at different comments, and there some people are asking, who have they taken down, who have they taken out? And I can say that I have reported personally on thousands of forced, I would say forced resignations, or you know, maybe involuntary resignations. There's thousands of these resignations that have happened. In addition to, if you look at the Department of Justice website, people, and they don't always have to be the George Bushes. We're talking about the people who support those people and act on their behalf, the criminals who kidnap the children, the child traffickers, the people who are distributing and making pornography, that's funding the the drugs, and the trafficking are what's funding a lot of these black operations. And those are the people who are being taken down. When you get the low-hanging fruit, then there's no one the puppet masters can control anymore. So, you know, it is a very methodical approach to take to deconstruct, you know, the old system, the old guard. Would you say, Ambassador?
Yeah, but it's always been like that. You see that the mafia leaders normally doesn't get caught. It's normally the handman, the small guys that is getting caught.
Mhm.
You understand what I mean? This is the way it has been for years, but it's time to take down the leaders now.
Someone's asking about what you know about the COVID autopsies in Italy, and maybe Steve can also. This is a pandemic, depopulation, and RFID chip vax plan. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And I'm glad to see that you see that. It's good to know that you see this. How much of this? So you're saying this was an attack against China? Is this not China? Doesn't China want to be the emperor of the world? I mean, are they acting? Are they trying to take control of the world, China?
I believe that it's not taking control of the world, because we believe in something called yin and yang, or and yang. You understand, a balance between good and evil. And, you have to have two opposite forces on the world. You cannot just have one.
Mhm.
You understand? So I think that you will see China taking much more international dominance, is already have taken. But they've been doing it not through war like America did and Europe did. They've been doing it through commerce. You
Mhm.
understand? When America and Europe have been busy running around killing people, China had been running around making contracts and signing deals.
Mhm.
You understand? And taking
Right.
over countries that way. So I mean,
Right.
it's a different approach. You know, a non-violent, hostile takeover.
Non-violent, hostile takeover. Steve.
Well, yeah, makes sense.
Hostile takeover. Yep.
Yeah. All right. Well, regarding the autopsies, basically they banned autopsies because they deemed them too dangerous, which is absolute nonsense. But the only autopsies I heard about, I mean, this was a while ago, was in Hamburg. what do you call it, a forensic doctor, did his own autopsies on 35 cases, so-called COVID cases, and each one of them had actually died of something else, but had COVID at the same time. So, but they died of other symptoms, other diseases.
Yeah.
So, so it's hard to know what the truth is. So I think that the fact that they did ban autopsies, it smells of a cover up to begin with. So that's all you need to know, really.
Right, and they're trying to make it look like a pandemic. If obviously in the United States,
They fudge the
not.
numbers. In the
They are.
States, the hospitals get $18,000 or something. I can't remember the number.
If they die from it, they get
yes,
$30,000. I mean,
oh,
if
really?
you
That much? Okay, so
taken
there's an
somebody, you get
incentive to fudge the numbers.
there's an incentive. Who incentivizes
Well,
this?
I tell you why. Because they want it to look bad for Trump. As simple as that. They
Yeah.
want the numbers to be high. That's easy.
Exactly. So, Ambassador, are you with us?
Yes.
Yeah. What do we have to look forward to? What can we expect in the next, I would say the next 30 days? Is there anything that we can see, any changes that you think we should be able to see to point us that we would know we're, going in the right direction? Anything to point us in the right direction?
Yeah, well, let's see what happens in the next coming days, and let's come back to another show quite rapidly. You understand? And because there's a lot of things happening behind the scene as we are speaking, but it's a lot of depending on movements.
Yeah.
And so it's hard to calculate exactly when and how and what.
Well, we covered a lot of ground today. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Okay.
We did, and I appreciate your time, and I also appreciate Benjamin's time, and I know Benjamin
you
had
very
to
much.
leave. So we'll be back again, and Ambassador, you'll join us again, won't you? We're almost at 500. We all started out together. In fact, Steve, Ambassador, myself, we actually all kind of started out with the GoldFish Report together.
The old guard.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't call us the old guard, Steve, but
the young old guard.
well, we were the pioneers, and so it is kind of a sweet moment now to share together because we are approaching the 500th, and it's come a long way. GoldFish Report's come a long way, and here we are again. So it's always good to be together, and I do appreciate you guys,
Fantastic.
coming on today and having this discussion. So we'll see you
Yeah,
all
thank
soon.
you.
And I want to thank everybody in the live stream, the live chat, even though most people are really, really nice. There's some really ungrateful people who, it's just too bad. It's just too bad that people have to find criticism instead of gratitude for
the trolls.
For my getting up at 5 a.m. to come and produce this show and organize this for people. I can't believe people are actually complaining about me in the live chat, but you know what? I'm not going to let you trigger me. So you can just go eat your cake. So everybody
take a hike.
Take a long walk off a short pier. So have a really great day, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Ambassador, good to be with you. And
thanks, Louisa.
Steve, thanks for joining me again. Excellent questions. I appreciate you being here. And this concludes this edition of the GoldFish Report.
Thank you very much.